Picture a millionaire. Big house, fancy car. Now delete all that. The real millionaire, the one living next door, often looks ordinary on purpose. Today on Insibook, we're unpacking the millionaire next door to reveal how quiet wealth is actually built. Steady income, simple living, relentless saving, and boringly consistent investing. In the next few minutes, you'll learn the telltale habits of everyday millionaires, how they budget by values, not vibes, avoid status traps, choose cars and homes that serve their goals, and let time do the heavy lifting. We'll give you quick wins you can start this week. A 10-minute net worth checkup, a pay-yourself-first system, 15 to 25%, and a one-page spending plan that cuts noise without cutting joy. You'll also see the PAW versus UAW mindset and how to switch teams fast. If you're ready to trade looking rich for being rich, don't skip. By the end, you'll have a practical playbook to build quiet, durable wealth, one calm decision at a time. Ready to become the millionaire next door? Let's begin. Start in a quiet neighborhood where pickups sleep in driveways and lawn chairs fade in the sun. On paper, nothing looks special. Modest homes, old hedges, a few weathered mailboxes. Yet behind several of those doors live people whose balance sheets are far larger than their houses suggest. They do not advertise it. No stream of deliveries, no parade of leased luxury, no scripts about crushing it. The core revelation is simple and disconcerting in a culture of display. Wealth is what you don't see. It accumulates in bank accounts, business equity, retirement plans, and paid-off assets, not in visible upgrades designed to signal success. Once you see that difference, the myth about who gets rich and how begins to crumble, replaced by a pattern you can imitate. The pattern begins with a relentless emphasis on living below one's means, not just occasionally, not just after a scare, but as a habit that defines the household. These are people who earn well enough, often better than average, but the signature move is what happens after the paycheck hits. They direct a large fraction of income to saving and investing before lifestyle expands. The surplus compounds quietly. The gap between what they could spend and what they choose to spend stays wide on purpose. Status purchases, if they appear at all, are rare and planned. Every choice, house, car, neighborhood, vacations, leans toward durability over dazzle. If consumption is a story you tell other people, they prefer a different genre. Clarity replaces wishful thinking. The household knows the numbers, how much comes in, how much goes out, how much is saved, where the investments sit, and what the family is building toward. They measure themselves by wealth, not by income. A quick rule of thumb keeps them honest. Take your age, multiply by your annual pre-tax household income, and divide by 10. If your net worth is above that figure, excluding inheritance, you're doing exceptionally well for your station. If it's far below, you are likely living closer to the edge than your earnings suggest. It's a crude gauge, but a useful one because it punishes high earners who convert pay into lifestyle instead of assets, and it rewards middle earners who accumulate relentlessly. Two archetypes emerge when you look across thousands of families. One is the prodigious accumulator of wealth, the person who saves aggressively, spends thoughtfully, and lets compounding do most of the bragging. The other is the underaccumulator, the high earner who leaks money into consumption so quickly that net worth stays light. The difference is not mysterious. The prodigious accumulator budgets, plans, and invests with calm discipline. The underaccumulator manages by credit card statement and impulse, rationalizing each new expense as inevitable or deserved. Over time, the gap widens until one family has a fortress and the other has a fragile story. The quiet rich spend time on offense and defense. Offense is the work that brings income, careers, or businesses that generate steady cash flow. Defense is the restraint that preserves cash and converts it into assets. Culture overvalues offense and dramatizes it with titles, deals, and headlines. The households that end up free long before their peers practice defense with the same zeal they practice offense. They bargain hunt, not because they are miserly, but because they understand compounding better than they enjoy applause. They fix what can be fixed. They keep cars longer, buy slightly used, avoid debt for anything that can't appreciate or produce income, and view rebates, coupons, and comparison shopping as tools, not personality traits. Households that compound well allocate time differently. They sit down for money meetings, they review taxes early and plan to reduce them legally, they track spending enough to notice drift. They research purchases that repeat, insurance, utilities, telecom, and periodically renegotiate. They devote more hours to investment decisions and to their own businesses than to chasing retail upgrades. None of this is glamorous, most of it is invisible, but the hours compound in the same way dollars do. A year of this routine looks prudent, a decade looks like freedom. Marriage in these households is a financial partnership. The person you share a life with becomes the co-architect of the plan. In many of the most successful families, both partners are frugal by temperament, and one, often the quieter one, acts as chief financial officer of the home, keeping the ledger and holding the line. The home is run like a small enterprise: revenue, costs, reserves, reinvestment. Gifts are thoughtful rather than grandiose. Celebrations focus on milestones rather than merchandise. When disagreements arise, they are resolved with reference to the plan. What will most increase long-term options? Over years, this alignment compounds into wealth more reliably than any hot investment. Consider the big-ticket choices that set the tone for everything else. Housing is the most consequential. The quiet rich buy less house than their banker offers. They choose neighborhoods where the social pressure to upgrade is low. This single decision reduces property taxes, insurance, maintenance, furniture churn, and the invisible tax of comparison. Cars come next. They view vehicles as tools, not trophies. Most drive non-luxury models, often purchased used, owned for many years, maintained on schedule. They know that each small bump in monthly payment becomes an anchor that drags down saving and attention. Clothing and accessories follow the same principle: quality bought strategically, repaired when sensible, replaced without drama, brands chosen for value rather than signal. On the earning side, reality is more interesting than the stereotypes. Many of the affluent do not work in the most glamorous professions. They build wealth in small to mid-sized businesses that solve dull problems: contracting, manufacturing, distribution, niche services. They sell real things to real customers and drag revenue in with grit. Professionals on salary, doctors, lawyers, executives, can and do become wealthy, but they also feature prominently among the underaccumulators because expectations of lifestyle and social environment push spending skyward. The point is not that one path is superior, it's that the path matters less than the ratio of spending to income and the habit of converting income into assets consistently. Where parents are wealthy, a special danger lurks: economic outpatient care. Gifts meant to help adult children often do the opposite. When rent, down payments, or spending money flows easily from mom and dad, the recipient may shape a life around subsidies rather than around productivity. They choose neighborhoods and schools that require continued support, develop tastes that outpace their own income, and postpone the hard work of becoming durable. The households that raise capable, independent children are generous in love and guidance and conservative with cash. They may help with education or a first step, but they avoid sustained subsidies. They coach their kids on budgeting, saving, marketable skills, and career choices that match their temperament. They take pride in children who become self-propelled, not in children who live like princes on parental stipends. Taxes receive unromantic attention. Wealth builders take advantage of the basic levers available to everyone: retirement accounts, health savings, charitable strategies that make generosity tax efficient. Business owners structure prudently, separating personal and business finances, keeping reserves, and paying themselves in ways that support stability. They do not play cute games with the tax code, they play long games that the code itself invites. Avoiding avoidable taxes is a compounding engine as real as any investment win. Risk in these families is chosen carefully. They insure against catastrophes that could erase years of progress, liability, health, life for dependents, and self-insure the small stuff by keeping cash and avoiding overpriced warranties. When they invest, they prefer boring excellence to exciting speculation. Broad market funds, cash-flowing real estate they understand, steady reinvestment in their own enterprise, these dominate. They are patient. They know that a decade of mediocre decisions can be rescued by one good habit, and that a decade of good decisions can be undone by one reckless bet. The scorecard is net worth, not cocktail stories. A thread of self-respect runs through all of this. The quiet rich are not ascetics. They spend on what they truly value. They travel, but often off-peak and with plans that wring delight from dollars. They dine out, but not to impress. They are generous, but their giving is structured and aligned with causes they care about, often in local or practical ways. What they almost never do is buy things to solve feelings. Retail therapy is not a financial strategy. The antidote to envy is gratitude for what money quietly makes possible. Time with family, work chosen for meaning rather than salary alone, the ability to say no. Neighborhood choice is a lever with surprising force. Live among constant display, and you will feel the tug to match it. Live among people whose identity is tied to craft, family, faith, or service, and consumption loses its glamour. The quiet rich often pick communities where their values are normal, safety over status, modesty over display, contribution over gossip. Children raised there are less likely to assume that adulthood comes with a luxury car and a sprawling kitchen as a birthright. They still encounter status pressures, but the baseline is different, and baselines are destiny. Time horizon is another secret hiding in plain sight. Wealth builders plan years ahead. They tolerate seasons of dullness because they understand that compounding looks boring up close and startling from a distance. They work their plan through both fat and lean years, adjusting without abandoning. Under-accumulators lurch from one lifestyle upgrade to the next, and then from one crisis response to another. They let the urgent dominate the important. They mistake motion for progress. The difference is not intelligence, it is temperament trained by small victories. Every time you keep a car one more year, decline a status purchase, or channel a raise to investment instead of lifestyle, you practice the identity that money quietly rewards. Education is prized, but not for its price tag. Degrees that signal status but do not translate into marketable skills are scrutinized. Best schools are evaluated not in the abstract, but against the plan. What debt will this require? What alternatives offer similar learning and network for less? Apprenticeships, certifications, and entrepreneurial starts sit alongside traditional paths, all judged by fit and payoff rather than by prestige. Parents teach children to ask, what value will this create and for whom? It's a practical morality that ties dignity to contribution more than to credentials. Gifts within the family follow the same logic. Financial help, when given, tends to be purposeful and bounded. Matching contributions to a child's savings, seed money for a clearly defined business plan after evidence of discipline, one-time help in a crisis with a plan to rebuild. Open-ended support is rare because it weakens the receiver's ability to stand. The real inheritance is instruction, habits, and an example of a life where money is tool, not master. You can hear a tone in these households when they talk about money. Calm, a little skeptical, never breathless. They are suspicious of new vehicles promising effortless wealth. They distrust debt dressed up as sophistication. They are less interested in timing the market than in owning productive assets through thick and thin. If they speculate, they do it with money they can afford to lose and with the humility to admit that the game is entertainment, not strategy. They know luck participates in outcomes, but they also know luck favors those with cash, patience, and a plan. When setbacks arrive, and they do, they respond with systems, not theatrics. Job loss triggers a pre-written protocol. Cut discretionary spending, pause upgrades, hustle for income, use the emergency fund, and refuse to let pride destroy options. Market declines trigger another. Keep contributing according to plan, rebalance if needed, ignore the noise. Family health crises trigger still another. Use insurance as designed, tap reserves, accept help if needed, focus on what money is for, to cushion life so you can do the human work. The most countercultural habit in all this may be contentment. Not complacency, these are strivers, but a refusal to use money to keep score against other people. They compete with themselves, with yesterday's version of the plan, with the slope of their own net worth line. They find satisfaction in hitting targets invisible to anyone else. This independence from other people's opinions is what allows them to choose the cheaper neighborhood, the durable car, the unflashy vacation, the early night. Contentment is a competitive advantage because it immunizes you against the most expensive disease, the need to appear rich. If this portrait sounds stern, look again. There is joy here. The joy comes not from renunciation but from control, from the sense that life is funded and that choices come from values rather than from creditors. It comes from being able to say yes to the important things and no to the rest without anxiety. It comes from work you can walk away from if it breaks your ethics, and from generosity you can afford without harming your family. In a world where many live one invoice from panic, that kind of resilience feels like a quiet miracle. Applied to your own life, the path looks less like a secret and more like a series of plain moves repeated over years. Define what enough means for you in concrete terms. Keep housing costs conservative. Buy reliable cars and keep them. Save and invest a high percentage of income from the beginning, raise the percentage when income rises, use a simple, low-cost investment plan you can stick with. Insure against catastrophes and self-insure the rest. Choose a spouse who shares your values and run the home like a small, kind company. If you help your children, help them become independent. Live in a place where your values feel normal. Resist gifts that undermine pride, spend on what you love and skip the rest. Keep score by net worth, not by likes. And then, stop talking about it. Let the house stay smaller than your means. Let the car run quietly. Let the business grow without press releases. Let the balance sheet become the story, a story only you and the people you love need to know. If visitors assume you're merely comfortable, not wealthy, that's fine. If coworkers think you're merely prudent, not free, that's fine. The aim isn't to be admired, it's to be secure. Over time, the ordinary choices will turn into extraordinary options. The option to retire early or to keep working for joy, the option to say no to a boss who forgot what people are for, the option to fund a cause that matters without strings attached, the option to weather storms without fear because you built a life that doesn't tip easily. The millionaire next door is not a unicorn. He and she are scattered across ordinary streets, living a pattern anyone can learn. Earn decently, spend deliberately, plan patiently, ignore the chorus, build quietly. In a culture that rewards noise, this is a quiet revolt. It wins not by spectacle but by compounding. It looks plain until the day it doesn't, until one afternoon when the last debt is gone, the account balances cross a threshold that once felt mythical, and you realize that the life you wanted no longer costs your peace to maintain.